I paid for a real guide, not a checklist.
Sergeant Okonkwo, I need to brief you on bear behavior and scent corridors.
Before she could finish, his boot landed on her map, leaving a perfect print across the contour lines.
Yeah, Mark, this isn't what we discussed. Send someone less. Affirmative action.
Mark Taggart's voice crackled through the radio. Change of plans, Sarge. You are sweeper on the East Ridge today.
Copy that.
She didn't argue, but her sniper's eye locked onto the boot print. Heel wear on the outside edge, 30 degrees of pronation.
They said this was a premium experience. You don't send a box checker.
Size 11. That stride pattern will press fresh snow in a way no other boot will. That print is a signature.
The group moved into the timber. Patricia turned to the East Ridge. The boot print was a map she'd read before the first snowflake fell under the high blue. The two ridges ran parallel. Stevens' group on one, Patricia alone on the east spine, a quarter-mile of air between them.
40 grand for this hunt. And they saddle us with a political hire. My company doesn't run on quotas.
Fresh scat. Still steaming. Bedding marks in the high basin. 35 head moving southeast.
She mapped the herd's route in her mind. A skill 14 years of tracking had hardwired, but the radio stayed silent. She wasn't part of the team.
I built a billion-dollar platform from my garage. This is my reward. Nature without the handouts.
Winds backing to the northwest. Pressure dropping fast. This basin is about to turn into a funnel.
To the west, lenticular clouds stacked like a warning. The temperature dropped 1 degree, then 2. Patricia radioed Mark with the updated forecast, but her transmission fractured into static. The storm was already chewing the signal. On the main ridge, the group heard nothing but Stevens' laugh rolling down the trail, a story about his first IPO carrying over the wind. Then the first cold gust hit, a river of ice bending the pines, carrying the scent of snow from a storm that was not supposed to be there. The temperature fell 38 degrees in an hour. Snow hammered the ridge like a white fist.
All teams, storm warning, abort the hunt immediately and return to base. Repeat, abort.
But Stevens' radio hung on his belt. He was crouched over a track, an enormous elk print in the fresh snow.
A Boone and Crockett bull. I am not turning back for a little weather.
He waved off the guide and pushed into the dark timber. The group's shouts were devoured by the wind. Ice crusted his phone. When he tried the GPS, the screen flickered and died. Moisture had shorted the circuit.
Mark, do you copy? I am off trail. Need a bearing, over.
His boot skidded on an icy rock. He fell hard. The last light was draining from the sky.
No voice but the wind, no footsteps but mine. I am completely alone.
On the East Ridge, Patricia caught 3 broken words through the static. Then silence. She didn't move. Not yet. In the command tent, Mark Taggart stared at the static-scrawled radio. 3 rangers were out, and none of them had a track. The snow was layering too fast. Every print filled within seconds, the icing erasing Stevens' trail like a crime scene washed clean.
Okonkwo, you got eyes on that East Ridge. Whitmore's still missing.
Negative. 0 visibility here.
She didn't add the broken words she'd caught at 3:14 p.m. 3 syllables soaked in panic. The radio crackled again. This time, the voice was ragged, distorted, but unmistakably Stevens.
That heel wear. 30 degrees of pronation. The same stride that will press a unique signature into the snow.
She knew the mountain, knew how to backtrack from where she last saw him, but the order hadn't changed.
We're pulling the Rangers back. It's too dangerous. We're losing the light.
23 minutes of light. A man is dying out there, and I am the only one who can read what his boots will leave behind. But I am not a real guide, right?
She didn't radio back. She turned east into the wall of white.
4 miles back to where he left the trail. Every contour from here to there is burned in my mind.
She moved by terrain memory. The the fallen pine, the split rock, the deer trail that cut through the scree.
His stride was hesitant, right foot pronating hard. In fresh snow that will read like a name on a letter.
Her compass needle trembled north, but her true bearing was a boot print she'd photographed with her eyes at dawn. Radio static fuzzed twice, then a broken shout. She kept moving. The messages were not for her. 4 miles out, she dropped to a knee. A faint depression, half filled with wind drift, angled off the game trail.
Heel, strike deep, toe drag. He's tired. 30 degrees of pronation. It's his.
The clock in her head ticked down. 22 minutes of light remained. She rose and followed the signature.
You called me a checklist hire. Let's see which of us the mountain keeps.
She followed the track into a dark pine tangle. Every third step, a drag mark. His left leg was failing.
The pronation is worse now. He's not just tired. He's losing proprioception.
A body-shaped depression in the snow marked where he'd fallen. A single glove lay frozen solid beside it. A rifle barrel jutted from a drift. Scope packed with ice. He'd dropped his weapon.
You don't drop your weapon. That's not carelessness. That's the muscles going. Stage 2 hypothermia.
The boot prints veered wildly now, no longer a straight line. He was wandering. The last daylight was a thin blue line on the horizon. Patricia forced herself to breathe slow.
18 minutes of usable light. If he's sitting down, I'll find him in time. If he's still moving, he might walk off the mountain.
The track cut through a deadfall, a maze of blowdowns and rotting logs. She climbed over without hesitation. Somewhere ahead, a cough broke the wind. Close. She drew her sidearm, not for threat, but for the sound of a human reply. Through the white curtain, a dark shape resolved beneath a fallen pine. Stephen, curled fetal, half covered in drift.
Whitmore. Whitmore, can you hear me? It's Sergeant Okonkwo.
The man didn't answer. His lips were blue, his shivering violent and useless, the kind of muscle spasm that burns the last heat. She grabbed under his arms and pulled. Dead weight. The snow fought her for every inch. She stripped off her ranger jacket, olive wool with 14 years of service, and wrapped it around him, tucking the sides against the wind.
Okonkwo to base. I have Whitmore. Stage 2 hypothermia. Need evac at grid 12T 459,831.
She struck her fire steel, sheltering the spark with her body, until the tinder caught, and a small flame licked the dark.
The elk went up the draw. Big one.
He doesn't know it's me. Just as well.
The blizzard screamed overhead, but under that pine, a small fire and a ranger held the line between life and a billionaire's grave. Through the static, the chop of rotors, a Black Hawk fighting the storm. Response time, 11 minutes. She'd taught, tracking to that pilot.
Whitmore, stay with me. The bird is here. You are going to see your boardroom again.
The chopper dropped through the white landing lights swinging. 3 medics jumped, heads down against the rotor wash. They strapped him to the gurney, checked his core temp. She stayed out of the rotor wash, letting them work.
I'll walk. Too much weight on a hot load.
The crew chief argued. She shook her head once. The bird lifted, its roar swallowing all sound but the wind. Alone now, the fire a dying orange. She gathered her gear, the empty jacket she'd wrapped around him, and began the trek back.
He never saw my face. Just as well.
8 miles back, her own boot prints filled behind her, erased as fast as she made them. By morning, the storm would bury everything. The rifle, the map, the trail. But a man was breathing on a hospital gurney because one boot print had been enough. 36 hours later, Stephen Whitmore opened his eyes to the sterile hum of a hospital room. The storm was gone.
Where? Who got me out of that? Rebecca. I want the name of the ranger who pulled me out. Every detail.
Rebecca called Mark Taggart, The outfitter's voice was low and tight when he answered.
It was Okonkwo, the one your boss had me reassigned to the East Ridge. She found him alone.
Rebecca's hand froze on the tablet. She had been in the truck that morning. She'd heard every word. Without a word, she pulled up the Forest Service personnel file and held the screen toward the bed. Sergeant Patricia Okonkwo.
That face, I never even looked at her. I stepped on her map like she was a doormat.
The heart monitor beeped faster. Stephen's throat worked, but no sound came.
Leave me alone for a minute.
The next morning, Rebecca drove to the ranger station with a $250,000 check and a prepared apology she knew was not hers to deliver.
Sergeant Okonkwo? Mr. Whitmore asked me to give you this. He says he can't thank you enough.
Patricia looked at the figure, then at Rebecca's face. No anger, just a stillness that said she'd known this offer was coming.
Tell him I didn't do it for money.
Rebecca's mouth opened. In her world, gratitude had a dollar sign. She couldn't fathom a person who would refuse it.
He wants to thank you properly. You could name a higher amount.
Number. If he wants to thank me, he can do it in person, but not with a check. That's what I was trying to tell him at the trailhead before he fired me.
She slid the check back across the desk and stood. The conversation was over. Rebecca stepped outside, phone already at her ear. The hospital line clicked.
She refused it. She wants to see you, but not your money. What do you want me to do?
Stephen hung up the phone and told Rebecca to set the meeting. He didn't use the word humbled, but the word was all over his face. The next morning, Patricia walked into the hospital day room. Stephen sat by the window, IV still attached. A man who had almost died, learning the name of the woman he had dismissed.
I've been trying to find the words. I was wrong about everything.
You weren't wrong about everything, just the part that mattered.
I owe you my life. That check was. I didn't know how else to express it.
I don't want your check. I want you to fund a program, a permanent mentorship for Black women to become trackers in the Forest Service. 14 years I've been doing this. I am the only one in my district. I can train them, but I need an endowment for gear, stipends, certification fees. Call it the Cold Track Program. You fund it forever. That's my condition.
Stephen stared at the worn scout sniper patch on the table between them. This wasn't revenge. This was a door being opened after years of people slamming it shut.
Take your time.
Why Black women? I mean, why this specific focus?
For 14 years, I've tracked everything in these woods, and I've never trained someone who looks like me. The skills go unnoticed because the women who have them are invisible.
She slid a thin folder across the table. Hiring data, enrollment numbers, a list of names scratched off for lack of funding.
Checklist hire. That's the word I used. I could have been funding her all along. You are right, I've been part of the blind spot. I'll fund the whole thing, permanent endowment, the Cold Track Program, whatever it needs.
He didn't look away. The hand he offered was not a transaction. It was the only genuine apology he knew how to make.
Welcome to the right side of the mountain.
When the first class graduates, I want to be there. Let me read the plaque.
You'll be the one to unveil it.
The deal was sealed not with a check, but with a handshake and a promise. The Cold Track Program was born in that hospital room. And the mountain would remember. Within 6 months, 14 women from 9 states arrived at the ranger station, each carrying a letter stamped with the Cold Track seal.
Day 1. I don't care where you are from. The mountain doesn't, and neither will I. Let's move.
She taught them the way she learned. Boot prints first, then compass, then the deep work of reading terrain like a living text. Indoors, map tables replaced the snow. Patricia's curriculum, written in longhand over 12 nights, became the program's Bible.
They see now what I saw at Benning. Tracking is not magic. It's attention to what others overlook.
A tech company from California sent gear. Tech, stipends, Patricia sent back progress reports written on waterproof paper. At mid-training, she pinned a cold weather star on each recruit's collar. Not a graduation, a promise.
You are not here because a billionaire said yes. You are here because you said yes first.
By the time the first snow fell again, the cold track program had a waiting list, and the Forest Service had a new standard for field certification. The first cohort was ready. The mountain was waiting to see what they would do. The first cold track graduation fell on a clear September morning. The trailhead where Stephen once stepped on a map now held rows of chairs, a podium, and 14 new rangers. Stephen walked to the microphone in a jacket that didn't fit his old life. His hands were shaking.
This plaque reads, "In honor of Sergeant Patricia Okonkwo, who tracked not just a man, but a future."
He tried to continue, but his voice broke. He stood there, a billionaire with a plaque and a face full of tears, unable to speak. No one moved. Then, the first graduate stood and began to clap. The rest followed.
That man stepped on my map 2 years ago. Now he's holding a plaque he can't finish reading. The mountain keeps its own score.
The applause lasted a full minute. 14 new rangers, their families, the Forest Service brass, all standing for the woman who had refused a check and built a legacy. Stephen stepped down, his cheeks still wet, and personally affixed the plaque to the new training center wall. The graduates, now certified rangers, threw their caps into the air. The cold track program had launched, and in the center of it all, Patricia stood still, watching the sky fill with hats, knowing the mountain had already begun tracking their tracks. By the third year, Cold Track had certified 42 rangers across 5 states. Patricia was offered a division chief desk. She turned it down. A front-page headline read, "Cold Track Graduate Finds Missing Boy in Flathead National Forest, 38 minutes." Quoting the sheriff's office, Patricia took her best graduate, now an instructor, into the field. "There's a difference between tracking an animal and tracking a lost soul," she said.
When a human is panicked, their stride tells you where they think safety is. You follow that, not the footprint. That child's parents don't know a billionaire's arrogance bought the boots that found her. They don't need to know. The prints are enough.
National News ran a segment. The Cold Track Program, changing who gets to guard the backcountry. Stephen Whitmore's name was not mentioned.
He didn't fund it for his name. He funded it because he couldn't sleep until he did. That's a better plaque than any bronze.
She promoted her lead trainee to deputy instructor, then walked a solo patrol. The program didn't need her to hold it up anymore.
14 years, I tracked alone. Now my tracks are being followed by women who will track others. That's the only multiplication that matters.
Cold Track Program had become more than a rescue story. It was a ladder that reached into communities the Forest Service had never recruited. In his office, late afternoon, Stephen Whitmore sat holding a framed photo, the handshake with Patricia, sunlight finding the glass.
She turned down $250,000 and asked me to build a ladder. I've never met a demand that shaped me before.
He dialed the Forest Service endowment office and asked to confirm the Cold Track funding was perpetual.
I want the Cold Track endowment locked into the trust. No expiration, no review. It runs as long as those mountains need guardians.
Rebecca knocked and entered. He set the phone down without a word.
I almost died being the man who fired her. Now I get to be the one who listened.
You funded 14 programs this year. This one, you don't talk about it like the others.
Because the others I bought. This one I earned by losing everything I thought I was.
He placed the photo back on the desk next to the plaque replica they'd sent him from the training center. For the first time, his fortune felt like a tool, not a trophy. The Cold Track program would outlive him, and that was the point. Late afternoon found her on a high ridgeline, the sun dipping toward the Continental Divide.
Okonkwo to Rookie 7. Track confirmed. Good work. Head home.
She clicked off the radio. and stood in the quiet, wind pulling at her braid.
20 years in these mountains. Elk, bear, lost hunters. Today I tracked the future.
From her pocket, she drew an old army patch and a small photograph, edges soft from handling.
Benning taught me to disappear. The program taught me to appear where it matters.
The photo showed the first cold track graduation. 14 faces, all black women in olive hats, holding certificates.
They called me a checklist hire. Now there's a waiting list.
She watched the light drain from the high peaks, a small smile finding its way to her lips. The mountain didn't need plaques. It remembered in its own way, in tracks, in wind, in the women who now walked its spine. The trailhead where his boot had landed on her map looked different now. A carved wooden sign read, "Cold Track Program Trailhead." A Forest Service truck pulled in. The ranger who stepped out had been in that first graduating class. She touched the letters on the sign. Just a moment. Then she gathered her gear. Somewhere on a ridgeline, a sergeant was tracking, unaware that this trailhead had become a monument below the main sign. A small bronze plate carried the date of the first Cold Track graduation and no other name. At the ranger station, a corkboard held drawings from children found by Cold Track graduates. One drawing showed a woman in a wide brim hat with a child's stick figure. "Thank you, Ranger," in crayon. The program had tracked more than lost people. It tracked a different future into being. The ranger clicked on her radio and started up the trail, following a phantom track that would become a rescue. The sign stood silent, but the mountain knew. One boot print, noticed at dawn, had changed the map. At the edge of a high meadow, where the timber gave way to sky, a wide-brimmed ranger hat rested on a sun-warmed rock. The wind lifted a few dark braids from beneath the brim. A whisper of the woman who had worn it. Patricia did not need to be in the frame. She had already changed it. The mountains she had tracked for 2 decades stood silent, their shadows stretching toward the valley. A boot print, a map, a storm, a refusal. These were her monuments. She had refused a check, asked for a ladder, and then climbed it into the sun. Far below, a new ranger checked her compass and stepped into the trees. The hat stayed. The mountain remembered. Some people don't need to be in the picture. They just change the frame. A child's crayon, a stick figure ranger, and the word "thank you" scrawled below. A cold track patch, sewn onto olive wool, earned, not given. A handwritten letter from a mother whose daughter came home safely because of a woman she never met. The bronze plaque on the training center wall, no name, just a date and a debt the forest can never repay. Sergeant Okonkwo's tracking journal, open to the last entry she wrote before the program launched. In it, a crayon drawing tucked between the pages, a child's gift to the ranger who found her. A corkboard full of faces, graduates in uniform. In the field, each a living monument. The wind moves through the pines at the trailhead. The sign solid and silent. The hat still rests on the rock. The meadow empty. In the end, after all the headlines and the ceremonies, it was never about the check. It was about a boot print, a woman cataloged when she had every reason to look away. It was about a freak, August storm that nearly swallowed a man whole, and a skill that refused to be silent. It was about a quiet refusal, not of gratitude, but of a debt that money could never settle. It was about 14 faces in olive wool who walked into the timber and never walked out the same. It was about a billionaire who learned to weep in front of a bronze plaque because the plaque wasn't about him. She never took credit, but the mountain kept a record of every step she made. The mountain didn't need a statue. It just needed someone to finally read the signs that had always been there. Now, every track in the fresh snow is a letter in a language the forest taught one woman, and she taught the world. And maybe that was the real lesson the mountain kept, that talent doesn't need a title, and grace doesn't need a thank you. In the end, the Cold Track program wasn't a program. It was a promise, whispered on a ridgeline, carried by the wind, kept by the women who walk there now. The trailhead sign still stands. The boot prints still fill with snow. And somewhere, a ranger looks down and reads a language no one else can see. 14 new rangers became 42, then more. Each one a verse in a song that started with a boot print and a woman who refused to be erased. So if you ever find yourself on that ridgeline and you see an olive hat resting on a sun-warmed rock, don't move it. It belongs to the mountain now, and the mountain never forgets who walked it, who saved it, and who taught it a new kind of silence. The story of Sergeant Patricia Okonkwo, the billionaire hunter who laughed at a black park ranger, and the storm that proved her worth in 23 minutes of light.